Perhaps the biggest news in the D&D community this week was the tease/leak of the first official book to be released in 2020. The leak was discovered from an Amazon announcement of a March book release that was announced on January 9th, or rather listed on January 9th. So our intrepid Dungeons and Dragons aficionados the web over, of course, noticed that Amazon had listed an item with just a simple placeholder cover and the text that said this book will be available March 17th. And then, of course, the official announcement was supposed to come on January 9th from Wizards. So the sphere was abuzz with pretense and speculation around what this new book was going to be. And that continues today, of course, as the announcement has been pushed out. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The release date for the new book was listed as March 17th, 2020, so it's bound to come in and around that date, which also coincides with the recent announcement for Forgotten Realms' Laeral Silverhands Explorer's Kit, which is the new Dice and Miscellany installment, similar to the Descent into Avernus Dice and Miscellany that we saw a couple of months ago. Now, there are no real firm details around the book, its origins, or what it will cover. If the ramp up of the Descent into Avernus Dice and Miscellany set is any indication, there's a good chance that this book might somehow correlate to Laeral Silverhand's involvement in the realms and the big part she plays. So like I said, the Forgotten Realms Laeral Silverhand Explorer's Kit Dice and Miscellany set, which is scheduled to launch on March 17th as well. It's pretty reasonable to assume that the book might be something akin. But either way, we've got an exciting new book coming from Wizards on March 17th and an announcement pending. Now, a lot in the community have suggested that because of the upcoming Dice and Miscellany release, Miscellany, whatever. It's so tied to character, in this case, Laeral Silverhand. The March book release might likely be a source book rather than a campaign. And this follows the convention that we've seen. The source books or reference materials tend to be named for and fashioned after characters, right? Xanathar's Guide to Everything, Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, Volo's Guide to Monsters. They're always tied back to an iconic character in the realms, whereas the campaigns are typically named after regions, locales, or an overarching adventure theme. So to that end, it's reasonable to assume that the pending book might likely be a source book or reference material rather than a new campaign. So maybe this might play out as like a Silverhand's Guide to, or Silverhand's something compendium of something else. So it's a valid speculation, but I have some other ideas to share. Now, Wizards, first of all, is coming out swinging this year, of course, with the announcement that there are at least 7 or 8 video games in development, including the Dark Alliance and the Magic the Gathering MMO Legends coming out at some point in 2020. But there have also been a number of releases scheduled already. For one, as mentioned, the Laeral Silverhands Explorer Kit, which is a Dice and Miscellany set. More detail on that coming in the next segment, as well as this new book that's been announced so early in 2020. So hopefully that's promising for a wealth and a trove of new content coming for D&D 5e as the year progresses. Now, unfortunately, the announcement date has since been pushed to December 13th, but that's only Monday. We won't have long to wait. Maybe they needed another round of proofreading and editing to make sure that there are no elves peeing into the hot wind this time. And while the rumor mill is still running overtime, as I would imagine our Wizards PR staff, there's a lot of community speculation around Planescape, Spelljammer, and Dark Sun still for this pending announcement and release from Wizards. I would still put my bets on a Forgotten Realms oriented compendium and maybe something with some playability, whether it's multiple short stories or something that's more focused on a new section of the realms. It's also worth mentioning that Kate Welch in August, I believe, of last year, alluded to the fact that there was going to be a release in early 2020 that featured female storytellers like Deborah Ann Wall and Marisha Ray, amongst others. And it sounded like that was going to be like a short stories playable based compendium, similar to what we may have seen with Yawning Portal, right? A bunch of micronized, episodic playthrough campaigns or stories that compile into one overarching piece. Now, this could tie together well with the release of Laeral Silverhand's Explorer's Kit, Laeral herself being one of the few open lords of Waterdeep through history, and a very powerful, iconic female archmage and individual that's well known in the realms herself. So thematically, that makes sense also. Either way, be ready to start hitting that refresh button on Monday morning. I sure will be, to see what the future of Wizards of the Coast holds for DMs and players alike.